element of your kick return game?
Oh, hey, Mike. Same as the offense. He's a big, powerful runner, fast, strong with the ball, good vision, has some return experience in college. So always excited to have a dynamic ball carrier back there.
And then with Eddie, I know he's had kind of not necessarily chip shot attempts, but like some high volume attempts. How much does that build up the confidence in a kicker, maybe early on, so when you do get later on in the season, he trusts his leg maybe in more high leverage spots?
Makes are great for everybody on the team. I've never had a kicker that said, "Let's start me off with a 65, and then we'll get closer from there." So it's that kind of thing. But kickers don't get to pick their attempts. They have to take whatever's coming to them. If it's a PAT or if it's a 48 to win the game on the left hash, is your first ball of the day. You never know. So he has to stay locked in for whatever shows up.
Thanks.
Hey, David Newton, ESPN here. How did having or playing with the lead impact your strategy? That was a little different probably than what you would have when you got playing from behind.
It impacted my happiness for sure, mostly. Strategy-wise, you're playing the plays as they show up. So down and distance, time on the clock, hash, conditions, all those things I'd say factor in more strongly than just the scoreboard until you get to the very end when you're playing, is this an onside kick, those kind of things. Do we risk rushing a punter? Those kind of things. Scoreboard is at the very end. The rest, you're trying to win every play all the way through.
And the onside kick, I think that's the first one you guys have had to prepare for this year. Were you satisfied with the way everything went, or anything you learned from that?
Yeah, you're right on. The process is different. Everything else is the same as it's been the last few years. The officials come over and tell you that in that case, the Raiders are going to attempt an onside kick, so that's kind of a bizarre moment. The rest of it, for our first one out there in the season, went pretty smooth. The guys were ready to go and saw what we expected to see and made a good play.
And one more thing, following up on Mike, will it even work with your group now that Thielen's out and he'll have to probably play a more prominent role as a receiver?
We'll see when we get to the games. I take whoever is presented to me as available.
Thanks.
Sure.
Go ahead, Alex.
Hey Tracy, good to see you again.
Hey, Alex.
What you mentioned earlier this season about how Eddie Piñeiro's soccer background can kind of impact the kick return game or impact your kicking game. How have you seen that manifest itself so far?
Just in general, as a kicker, the guys who have soccer experience are less rigid than the others as far as their technique and form. So I found in the past the soccer background kickers are more open to try this, try that, left, right, kind of play with the conditions. So he's kind of opened up the possibilities. We're still trying to get to the game what his best kicks are. But I just appreciate his openness to whatever we're trying to do that week.
Is it fair to say that openness is perhaps more important this year, considering the newness of the kick return rules?
Sure. I like that in any player, or whatever we're doing. That's just kind of our style, try to keep pushing the edges of what's possible, what we're best at. Let's try this, let's try that. So I like that from all the guys, kind of whatever their role is.
Yeah. And then one last thing about Eddie. You've worked with him you've worked with him for most of the off season and now 3 weeks into the NFL season. Just generally, what has impressed you about him? What has stood out about Eddie?
A really good worker, consistent, great spirit, shows up ready to work on something every day. So no complaints at all, and fun to be around.
Great. Thank you.
Sure.
We'll go with Mike K.
Hey Tracy, I was just curious. I know you've been coaching in the league for a very long time, but I was curious, what's the best coaching advice your dad gave you when you started in this career, or maybe since, that has helped you as a coach and kind of find your voice?
Okay, thanks for asking. My dad, certainly one of my heroes in coaching and otherwise. Our conversations are generally, for two football coaches, I guess, not football related. He's always more of an example of how he handled things, just really smooth, available to problem solve at all times, but just have the demeanor that something goes wrong, let's keep going. Something goes right, let's keep going. Handle the ups and downs. Really an example in that way of being able to handle that and have a good time throughout it all. Try to treat people well around you.
And then I guess my other question is, how much has Bates kind of grown as a coach from last year to this year? I know you were kind of effusive in your praise of him earlier in the summer, but like, what have you seen from a growth and development standpoint since he arrived here?
Okay, I'll get to that. Just to jump back, while you asked me about my dad, happy birthday to my mom. She had a big birthday this week, so shout out to that. I've checked the algorithm. There's about 85 viewers of this particular podcast, and most of them are my kids on my wife's phone. So happy birthday, Mom. Love you very much. Okay, speaking of my mom, Darren Bates. So Darren has he's getting better week to week on the fundamentals of coaching. The indoor stuff is the stuff that any player turned coach has to learn and figure out. The one-on-one communication, the teaching about things that weren't particularly your position when you played, trying to describe things to a gunner or a jammer, stuff that he didn't do personally. It was natural for him to explain the things that he had experienced. So kind of going beyond that, learning how to break down another team and say, this is what they do, here's their strengths and weaknesses, as opposed to just your individual matchup, is all things that he's developing as he goes. He's a fantastic connector with the team and has outstanding energy from day to day. The game day management stuff is all things that we're working on. And I got no complaints. He's done a great job so far. We're happy to have him.
Tracy, just to clarify really quickly, that shout out to your mom, that's not in lieu of calling her, right? You called your mom on her birthday?
I did call. It was the 24th. We have passed the date, so I called. My kids drew cards. Hello to my kids while we're doing shout outs, I guess. Lane, Bo, Mac, what's up? We're doing that. And then exactly how hard does it have to rain for all of you to stay home?
Tracy, I completely agree.
Okay.
Completely agree.
Thank you.
Some of us drove in today.
You guys.
Are you now going to pray for rain? Is that what's going to happen for every week? Or
I've yet to decide if this is better or worse.
Sorry, go ahead, Deshaun.
I think it was a tornado warning, maybe.
Accepted.
I did want to ask, you said previously how you watch kickoffs from every game. I believe I have that correct.
Sure.
From the sample size you have so far, what has stood out about what you've seen?
Okay. Teams have changed less than you would have thought from the preseason to the regular season. The stuff that they decided was the answers in August, most teams have stuck. There's a few examples, unnamed, of teams that have changed fundamentally their technique or their thoughts on it, but mostly it's gone straight through. People have taught their stuff and stuck to it, so it's been a little less fluid than I was anticipating as far as try this, try that.
Cassidy Hill?
Yeah, Tracy, why was there the assumption that they would change? Was it just because it was new and still figuring things out, or why is that different than maybe what you thought?
I thought there was going to be huge mistakes. We were going to be wrong about things. And like, okay, nope, that's out. Like more cross-offs, which that period did happen for us in the springtime. It was like, okay, go through this practice. Like, oh, nope, something else tomorrow kind of thing. But that hasn't really shown up in stadiums.
Coach, you want to share how old your mom is?
No. Well, let's say you go first.
I'm having my birthday on Saturday.
Which birthday is that?
A big one.
Yeah, we're in that ballpark. Well, it's a big one as well. It's right there.
Okay.
She's the exact right age to be my mother.
Okay.
that was a real onside kick to Newton there.
Yeah, well, hey, take a shot.
Mine'll be 65.
There you go. Okay, well, we're up by a couple.
Tracy, have you noticed any difference when now that teams have to declare the onside kick? Have you noticed any difference in preparedness in that fourth quarter from the limited sample size?
Okay, functionally, all it changes really is that once they say they're onside kicking because of the penalty, they are onside kicking. So you don't have to worry about the deep kick. So that takes that little function out of it. It was always like, okay, here, put out the hands team, but they might kick it to the end zone. So you had to deal with that. So that part of it is completely gone. So that helps a little bit just on the awareness. It limits the kicking team's menu and kind of increases the accuracy of the return team.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure.